Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Um, yeah, it's been a week for me. I don't know about you guys out there. My school that I teach at went back to remote, so we're having a spike in cases, which is kind of a bummer. So I'm glad that it is almost Thursday. And thank you all for coming. I know you all have busy lives and schedules, so I'm honored that you are spending a little time with me today. Hello, Samantha and Maria. Welcome. Hi, Melanie. So good to see you all. Thank you for coming. So today we're going to talk about body kindness. Specifically, we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can bring body kindness into your dance classrooms. I'm going to tell you what body kindness is, why it's important, and then, like I mentioned, give you those 3 go-to tips, some of the things that I use in my classes all the time that have had really good results for me. And at the end, I'm also going to be sharing a special discount code with you that you can use on my website. So if you can, make sure you stick around till the end. I think this will probably be about 15-20 minutes or so. So I hope you can stick around for the whole thing. Hi, Crystal. Nice to see you. Hi, Elizabeth. So nice to see some familiar, friendly faces out there. I hope you guys are having a good Thursday. And if you guys do have to leave a little bit early, because I know we all have busy lives, we're all doing lots of things, I am going to put the recording of this in my stories in the highlight section. So if you have to go, then no worries, just come back later and you can get yourself filled in on all of the details. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in, you guys. So if you don't know me, hello, my name is Katrina. I'm the CEO of Different Drummer Dance, and I'm assuming since you're here, you probably know a little bit about what I do and why I do it. Mwah, right back at you, Melanie. But I am the CEO of Different Drummer Dance, which is both a studio in upstate New York here where I am, and it is an online platform that is dedicated to education and awareness for dancers and dance teachers on dancer wellness. So topics like body image, body kindness, growth mindset, all of that type of stuff. So today I wanted to talk to you about body kindness, but before we dive into that, you might be curious what body kindness is exactly. And luckily, this is one of those things that is exactly what it sounds like. So body kindness is the idea and the practice of being kind to ourselves, to our minds, to our bodies, and choosing habits and practices that put that kindness into action. And that can include self-talk, how you talk to yourself. It can include talk to other people, other dancers, the foods that we eat, the rest that we get, the company that we keep, the social media that we tune into and engage with. Really, it's kind of the whole 9 yards as far as thinking and practicing kindness to ourselves so that we can be more successful, not only in dance, but in all areas of our lives. So it's not actually a difficult concept. It's not a crazy out there like woo kind of concept. It just might feel a little bit foreign to us, especially as dancers, because most of us have grown up beating ourselves up and kind of abusing our bodies and our minds. So body kindness isn't a difficult topic, but it just is one that takes a little getting used to wrapping our mind around, because so many of us have different habits and we were brought up in dance classrooms and dance communities that didn't teach us these things. So I actually got the idea. I was turned on to body kindness by a book of the same name. The author is Rebecca Stritchfield, and she is on Instagram. So if you want to go follow her, check out her work, read the book, I can't recommend it enough. It has literally blown my mind and my world open, especially as a dancer, and applying some of the principles and strategies that she talks about in her book to the dance classroom, to dance training. So if you're curious about it, go check her out, Rebecca Stritchfield, and the book is called Body Kindness. So this is a good time of year to practice body kindness. This is when I practice this, not only with myself, but with my dancers that I teach as well. And there's a specific reason that I practice it at this time, because January is over, right? So we've gotten over that initial kind of okay, it's a new year, new me, all that kind of stuff, which I don't really subscribe to, but absolutely new year, new intentions, maybe trying to start some new habits, new ways of thinking. So we're kind of beyond that, right? So we might be kind of in a place where we started that and maybe we stopped, we got stuck, we're not sure how to move forward. And so bringing body kindness in is a really great way to kind of reignite some of those intentions that you might have had at the beginning of the year. Again, both for yourself and for any dancers that you might be teaching. And also, February is the month of love, right? But I always I was one of those people who was like, Valentine's Day is stupid. This is dumb, which it's not. But I think that this can be a really good time of year to help ourselves and our students think about Valentine's Day in a different way. Maybe not so much as like seeking that external validation from a crush or an audition or a company or a partner, whoever, but kind of going inwards and working to be more kind to ourselves, being kind to our own mind and our own bodies, because those are the people that we have to spend 24/7 time with, right? So we might as well learn how to be kind to ourselves. And this is kind of the perfect opportunity, the perfect time of year to do that. So 3 easy tips for you to start bringing body kindness into your own dance practice, into your own classes, for yourself if you are a professional dancer or you're auditioning. These tips are for anybody and everybody. And the first one is really kind of obvious, but it's important, and it is to start a conversation. So if you are a teacher, for example, like I am, sometimes we are hesitant to have these conversations with our dance students because we feel like it's not our place, or, we feel like we are not experts, we don't have the right information, and we don't want to give the wrong information, or we don't want to piss their parents off. I know it can feel a little bit tricky, but I want to encourage you to just at least open up a conversation. And a lot of times I find when I talk with my teen dancers, I don't really even have to do that much talking. I just kind of open it up as a dialogue and they take it from there. And I learn so much about them from just like giving them a platform and a safe space to talk. So ask your dancers if they have heard of this phrase. Have they heard of the phrase body kindness? Ask them what they think it means and tell them, give them your reflections. What do you think it means to yourself? Like, share what it means to you. And then you can give them some examples, right? Like, body kindness might be taking 15 minutes of yoga at the end of dance class, or it might be noticing when you hear that inner critic start saying mean things and choosing different thoughts. It might be eating a really tasty meal that you have cooked for yourself, or eating something that you've been craving, right? Give them some examples of what body kindness can look like, and then also make sure that you do the flip side and give them some examples of what body kindness does not look like. So body kindness does not look like beating yourself up at the end of class, or like physically having a reaction when you fall out of the double pirouette, which we all do, right? Body kindness is not forcing yourself to come to class or take extra rehearsal or put on your point shoes if you are sick, or if you're not feeling well, or if you're exhausted, or if you're recovering from an injury. That is not body kindness. Not eating for a day because you're on a fast or you're trying a diet, that is not body kindness, right? So we want to give examples of what it is and also what it isn't, so they can just start to kind of tune in and figure out, oh, this thing I'm doing, maybe not so much. So then after you've started that conversation, right, that's the first tip, is introduce the topic, have a conversation, see where it goes, see what ideas they come up with and what things they have to say. And if you're doing this for yourself, then maybe you might journal on it. Maybe you might talk with a friend about it, or read the book that I mentioned by Rebecca Stritchfield. Or you can, if you're more of a talker, maybe you go see a therapist, or maybe you just put your voice memos on and you talk to yourself and then listen to it back. There's lots of different ways that you can open up this conversation for your dancers, or have it internally for yourself. And then after you have had that conversation, either with your dancers or with yourself, my second tip is to create a class or a studio pledge. Now, again, this can be done for a class of dancers, or this can be done internally for yourself. You can do it all on your own. But this is if you're doing it for your class, for your dancers, this is your dancers' acknowledgement and agreement that they will not only begin practicing body kindness, but they'll also help their fellow dancers do the same thing as well. So after you've had that conversation with your dancers and you've identified things that do qualify as body kindness and things that don't qualify as body kindness, make yourself a list and then pledge, have the dancers sign it. You can do it, like a contract. You can get a big piece of paper, make it beautiful, do markers and stickers and glitter and all the things, and then have them write those things down that you identified as body kindness, and have that be their pledge that they are going to promise to speak kindly to themselves, to speak kindly to other people. They are going to tune into their bodies and listen and rest when they need to. Make that whole list, have everybody sign it. If you're doing this virtually, you can also just create something like a shared Google Doc where everybody can insert their own ideas and then they can keep adding to it. It can be like a living, breathing document that you keep going back to so that you can make sure that you're still on track and that you're still motivated, and you can remind yourself why this is important. If you're doing this just for your own benefit, you can do the same thing. You can write out yourself a pledge. I promise to speak kindly to myself. I'm going to do this because I feel better when I do, or it's good for the long-term health of my mind and body. Like, the reasons will be all individual and all to your own. But that is another really great way to get your students and yourself on track with body kindness. Some examples of things that you might use in your pledge are: we will practice body kindness by, and then have them fill in the blank. What things are they going to do? How are they going to show up to class? What words are they going to use? What foods will they eat? How will it feel in their bodies, right? Like, get them thinking about like the sight, smell, touch, sound, all of that sensory stuff. So it's really a full body experience. We promise to practice body kindness by, again, have them fill in the blanks so that they are part of this conversation. They are part of the solution. And that's going to keep that momentum going so that it's a communal experience and you have the support of each other. You're not going this alone. Your dancers aren't doing this alone. You have the support of each other as you're practicing these body kindness principles. And it helps keep you accountable too, right? Because times are hard. Life is hard right now. And sometimes we just need a friend and a soft spot to land to keep us accountable and remind us of why this is important and why we want to do it. So it'll keep you accountable, and it'll keep you motivated. All right, my third and final tip for using body kindness in your dance classrooms is what I call, it's a practice that I call fact or fiction, because most of us have pretty harsh inner critics that can really trip us up when it comes to being kind to our minds and bodies. But a really powerful shield for that inner critic that we have is getting curious about if what that inner critic is saying is true or false, because our inner critics love to exaggerate, right? I know I'm not the only one who has an inner critic, and that inner critic is not very nice. She's kind of a bitch, and she loves to exaggerate, and she has zero sense of humor. I'm guessing you probably also have an inner critic that is somewhat like that. So because our inner critics love to exaggerate, it's important to call that exaggeration out when we notice it, and then replace it with a more accurate and positive thought. So for example, you might think this, or maybe you have a student who thinks this: I always mess up pirouettes. I know that's something I always told myself when I was a young dancer. Heck, not really even that young, like maybe yesterday I might have said that to myself. But it's always something that I would tell myself, and it really created a block for me when it came to practicing and improving. But when we dissect that phrase, that criticism, right? Like when we stop and ask ourselves, do I really mess up every pirouette? Like every single pirouette that I've ever done in my dance life, I've messed up? That's not true, right? So then we get some perspective, and we can see, okay, that's not a fact, that is fiction. So maybe a more helpful thought or response would be, I sometimes am challenged by pirouettes, or pirouettes are something that I really want to work on, or I could use some help with my pirouettes, I'm going to go ask my teacher, right? Because then you're replacing the thought with not only a more positive one, but then an action that you can use to follow up on it, so you don't just stay stuck in the I always mess up pirouettes, I'm hopeless kind of mindset, okay? So that's a strategy that you can use when you have this conversation with your dancers about what body kindness is, when you're identifying the things that do count as body kindness and the things that don't count as body kindness, talking about your inner critic and using this fact or fiction kind of strategy can be really helpful. So you can bring that up in the conversation. You can also use it in your classes. When you see a student might be having a moment where they're doing that physical, like, defeated, deflated type thing, right? Which we've all done and we can see in our students all the time. You know, it might just be worth like a little tap on the shoulder or saying to the entire class, like, okay, I see that you might be having some self-criticism going on here. I want to remind you to check in with yourself and see if this criticism is really fact or is it fiction. So you're reminding them to check in with themselves and really get curious about if what's going on up here is true or is it exaggerated, and what's the underlying message? How can we improve upon that message? How can we make it more positive and more helpful to our overall growth? Again, that's something that you can do for yourself. If these are practices you're wanting to apply to yourself, if you're not currently a teacher or you just want to focus on you, do that with yourself. If when you're teaching or when you're with your kids or just out in life and you start noticing a negative thought spiral, pause, right? And ask yourself if the inner critic is speaking in fact or fiction, and then move forward from there. Okay? Now, if you want some more ideas or tips or exercises along this line, those were the 3 that I wanted to share with you today. But I have all of these, like, more in depth and more in my Body Kind Valentine. That's this guy right here. I printed out a copy for you guys. So there's actually a specific worksheet that you can use with dancers that has the fact or fiction strategy on it. Looks like this. Okay, so if you're wanting some more like detail, some more information about how to use these practices that I just talked about, you should go check out this guide. It's on my website, and through Sunday, I'm giving you 25% off. So this guide is normally $19. It is 18 pages of resources and tips. There's also some specific Valentine stuff in here if you have younger dancers who you want to start early with body kindness. There are some Valentine affirmation cards that you can use with them. So there's things for younger dancers, there's things for older dancers in here. There's also some choreography prompt cards. You have like a little respect dance party, and there's some choreography cards that you can use. So really this is appropriate for all ages, all abilities. And the other nice thing about this is that you can use it all year long. I know that it says it's a Valentine's guide, but really these can be adapted to be used throughout the entire year. So you can start it now during Valentine's. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the live video, it's a great time to start now. Start these practices now, but you can adapt these strategies and exercises and activities and keep using them throughout the entire year. So it will serve you not only this month, but for many months to come. So this is usually $19, as I mentioned, but I have a special code for you all to use through Sunday. So you can grab that guide for like $15. It's a 25% off discount. So all you need to do is use the code IGLive. Put that into the website and it'll be applied automatically. You don't have to worry about anything else. You'll get it for $15, and that is my gift for you for this Valentine's Day. And yeah, it's a great way to get started. So if you have been curious about all of these things that you've seen me talk about or heard me talk about, and you know they're important, but you just haven't quite been sure about how to start, this is how you start. There's tons of information in there, and I hope you will check it out. So one more time, the code is IGLive. Just put that in and you're good to go. The link to grab it is in my bio. So after this, if you want to tap on over to my bio, click the link in my bio. It's the very first button that you'll see there. You can always message me as well if you have any other questions, or you forgot the code or anything. You can always feel free to message me, and this recording will be on my stories afterwards as well. So if you want to come back and rewatch and grab the code, then you can do that. But as we kind of wrap up here, guys, I did have some really awesome questions come in that I want to address while we're here on the live. So let's see, Miss Maria Dance, hi Maria. She asked how to bring up body image in a positive way so that students don't start worrying about it. And that is a really great question. And my response, I have a couple things. I would say, one, it's really important to start early, right? So if we start with principles like that we talked about today, these body kindness ideas, if we start with that young, when they very first come in, right? Creative movement, pre-ballet, any of that. If we start when they're young, it just becomes second nature. So then there's not so much of like a fall off when they get to those preteen and teen years, when bodies are changing and we're trying on costumes and everybody tends to feel like a little extra sensitive and a little extra insecure. I think it's important to start early. And the way that I would encourage you to start early is to, you know, with things like this, with the body kindness principles, like talking with your students about how we can be kind to our bodies in dance class, about how we don't say negative things to our bodies. We're grateful for our bodies. That can come in the form of having, again, conversations with your students about why it's good to be grateful for our bodies. You can do body scans. You can have a class jar that is a gratitude jar where everybody writes down on a little post-it like something that they are grateful for that their body did. Those are all really great ways to start young and start with a focus on being on gratitude and appreciation for the body, so that as they get older, that's already a foundation. They are already solid and they know in their bones that their body is capable of amazing things and that there's so much to be grateful for, that they don't feel like they have to fight against their body, but that their body is already on their team. And as they get older, I also start incorporating more talk about like, okay, so we're going to focus on the sensation of the movement over the shape, because as we get older, as we start doing more technique, right, we get a little bit more zoned in the mirror, and that's important. It's important to use the mirror as a tool, but we want to, you know, not use the mirror as the thing to obsess over how we look. So I don't use the mirror as much as the kids get older, right? Like, there will be weeks where I'll just totally cover the mirrors up, and instead we're focusing on the sensation. We're focusing on how the movement feels in our body physically as opposed to how it looks in the mirror. So those are some tips that I would use for how to bring it up and incorporate it so that they don't start worrying about it. When it's just like a natural part of class and a natural flow to class, then it doesn't seem like it's a glaring thing that you're trying to address, right? And then they don't start thinking that it's something that they should be worried about. And I'm sure that you are doing a fantastic job just kind of having these conversations with your students and making sure that they know that this is a safe place for them to be. I'm sure you're already doing that. So I'm sure that they already feel it, and I'm positive that they already know that you have their best interests in mind. So they will feel comfortable and confident talking about this, bringing it up, and having more conversations with you about it. And then Maria, you also asked how to encourage proper class attire in a positive way, which is another great question. So I will give you the example that I use for my studio, which is we have a parent-student handbook, which I'm sure you do too, because most studios do. But in the section that outlines like uniforms, I do have a uniform for each class, but there's also language and kind of a clause in there that is very specific about students should dance and what makes them feel comfortable. So if there are students who are non-gender conforming, if there are students who, you know, are maybe recovering from an eating disorder or have disordered eating habits and the parents have let me know, I make sure that they know as well that the dancer can come and be in clothes that make them feel comfortable. That's my priority, because I would rather the dancer come to class, feel good, have a positive experience, than not come to class at all, or come to class and just be uncomfortable and not want to be there because they were forced to wear X, Y, and Z leotard. So I would encourage you to maybe take a look at the language that's in your handbook around like dress code, and just, you know, see if there's something in there that you can tweak, and be willing as well to modify as needed, right? So if there's something else that you can offer for a student, or if there's something that you can add to your dress code to make it feel a little bit more comfortable or a little bit more inclusive, then I would consider doing that, because the alternative is that the dancers then they go inward, right? And they kind of put that shell on, and then they're not comfortable. They don't want to come to dance class. They're not engaging. Meanwhile, like, we might see that happening on the outside, and then on the inside is that inner critic at work, right? So I think it's a combination of those two things, about making sure that you are making things inclusive and accessible and comfortable for your dancers, so that on the exterior they have, you know, they feel that comfort, and then also combining that with everything that we just talked about that you're doing in class, that you're talking about body kindness, that you're showing them how to change that inner critic voice. So between those two things, it kind of evens out, and then they have kind of a more holistic, well-rounded idea of how to deal with negative body thoughts and how to move forward and not stay stuck in those feelings and in that kind of mindset. So I hope that answered your questions. If you guys have any other questions about anything that I talked about today, again, feel free to always find me in the direct messages. I'm always happy to chat more or point you in the direction of other resources or other accounts that might have more information for you. And yeah, I hope you got some good tips out of watching today. Thank you again for showing up. Remember that your code for the Body Kind Valentine is waiting for you through Sunday. The code is IG Live, and it'll give you 25% off that Body Kind Valentine guide. It's kind of a mouthful to say. And that wraps things up for me. So thank you again. I know your time is valuable, so I appreciate you spending a little bit with me today. Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you, Trish. You guys have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you around Instagram soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.